Bert Breer writes this on SI.com, quote, to me, the problem is larger than the quarterback. And again, if Kraft feels like it's really dire, maybe he forces a restructuring to empower and or add to the scouting department, which could cause Belichick to throw his hands up and walk. I know a lot needs to happen to force Belichick's departure, but if things don't get better, I don't think such a scenario playing out is all that unrealistic. This little topic here is where we begin the deep dive, as we still have MMQBs, Bert Breer here, Ted Johnson, John Tomase joining us as well. I mean, are you hearing that is there growing sentiment that Bill Belichick's job is in jeopardy?
I don't think that Robert Kraft's going to fire him after 2023. I want to be very clear about that, but I don't think he's going to be satisfied if they.
But does he passively aggressively force him out?
If they go 7-10, I also don't think he's going to sit on his hands. That's the thing, and I do think that there's that feeling of everything that they built over 20 years, slowly slipping away. And this was a team that, every one of their games was called by Nance and Romo or Buck and Aikman. And now the only times that they have the A crews, and this is stuff that matters to owners, is when the other team is on the marquee, when it's the Cowboys or when it's the Eagles. And so, I don't think he's going to stand by if they go 7-10 and say, I'm not doing anything about this. Let's just ride it out with Bill. I do think there would be some level of change. And I think the question to me then would be, is it a level of change that would irk the head coach to the point where he would walk? And if Kraft knows the conversation could go that way, would he have it with the coach? Would you go in and say, I want you to bring in John Robinson as your general manager, or I want you to bring in Scott Pioli as your general manager, and I'm going to give him the power. And you know what, Bill? You're going to report to me, but so is this guy over here. Is he willing to have that conversation knowing Bill could walk over to the door, reach for his coat?
Don't you think he already had? He had it last year. They went 8-9, and don't you think Kraft had a hand in bringing Bill O'Brien here? Do you think?
Yeah, no, I think he does, but I think that that's an easier conversation to have because Bill O'Brien answers to. Because I do think I think whenever Bill leaves, there is going to be a restructuring. No coach in the NFL has this amount of power, and especially if it's a first-time head coach like Gerard Mayo. That next head coach probably isn't going to have close to the amount of power that Bill has. So that restructuring is eventually coming. If Robert decides now is the time to have it, then is Bill willing to be part of that restructuring? I think that would be the question.
Possibly. I'll ask you this because Bert raised the question. Would Robert Kraft have that difficult conversation with Bill Belichick? I wonder, is it the only way that Robert Kraft will do it? Does Robert Kraft not want to look like he's forcing Bill Belichick out and instead saying, look, I'm just trying to do what's best for the football team. And it's not the coaching, it's the personnel decisions. So if you want to walk, that's on you, but I didn't force you out the door.
It's the coaching. It's also the coaching. We can't ignore that. But I go back to what you said jokingly, the passive aggression. This is the way we have to do it. We have to be passive aggressive. That's the only, you can't just say, Bill, the results haven't been there. Bill, the league is passing you by. Bill, it's an offensive league and you keep drafting guards and kickers. We're going to go in a different direction. I don't understand why the owner at this point isn't empowered to do that. If he's listening, Ted, people aren't happy with how this season is going. I think these thoughts of Bill needs to stay to pass Shula. Robert Kraft doesn't want to be the person who denies Bill the chance to catch it. Fans don't care about that. I'm sorry. They don't. They want a winning team. And if it means moving on from Bill, they're okay with that.
Yeah, here's the thing. I think it'd be very interesting if they started kind of enforcing, hey, Bill, you got to get a new general manager. Bill, you got to do this. You got to restructure this. Would he be okay with it or not? I think at this point, you guys, I think he might be. He's 71 years old. He doesn't want to. I don't think he wants to pick up and move. I don't think he wants to start over anywhere else. His sons are on this. He's got all his people throughout the entire organization. And so if you were to ask me this question 5-10 years ago, I would say, no way he would work under those conditions. But I'm not so sure about that now.
The one thing I would say, too, and I said this on the radio earlier today, and I do think it's an important point to make, is generally the coaches that have gone other places have almost tried to take the Patriot way and paint different colors on it when they went different places, right? The front office people haven't. The front office people have done things their own way, whether it's John Robinson, Thomas Dimitroff, Scott Pioli, all those guys built rosters differently than they built them here. Dimitroff's trade for Julio Jones, the way John Robinson built with Derrick Henry as the lead dog there.
Jason Licht.
Jason Light in Tampa, right? Like built very differently. So I think if you did bring in somebody who had knowledge of the system, who knew the way things were worked here, but had done it a different way somewhere else, that might actually work for Bill potentially, and I think it could fix some of the things that are wrong with the organization too.
Do you think Bill Belichick would walk away on his own? And I'm not talking about being forced out because they're making him answer to another general manager or changing some of his coaches. Let's just say things are as they are now, where he is mostly in control, mostly surrounded by his people. Do you think he would walk away from this? Because I think there is no chance in hell he would walk away from this.
I will join you in hell. No, I don't think that he will walk away from this willingly. I think that even last year with Matt Patricia and Joe Judge, I think that Bill, I understand that he thought it might have been moving in the right direction. That was a Robert Kraft operation to bring Bill O'Brien in. Maybe Bill, acceded to it and said, all right, okay, fine. That makes you happy. We'll do that. And there was a piece from Tom Condon, a quote from Tom Condon in Charles Robinson's piece that referred to that. Once the owner starts tinkering with your staff, then it's bad. So we saw tinkering there. We saw tinkering with Gerard Mayo. But no, I don't think that Bill Belichick would walk away. I do think it's important to understand this, too, with the communication level between owner, coach, and everybody in the organization and Bill. Bill is not an open book. Bill doesn't share his plans. Bill doesn't give explanations. Bill just does Bill. And I think that's part of the frustration to me as I watch from the outside and have over the course of time spoken to people involved in the building. He doesn't tell anyone anything. So that's one of the really difficult dynamics that will exist in this because they will be somewhat polarized. And Kraft is a communicator and Bill is not. So how do you get to a meeting on the minds of what do you see happening over the next 20 months, Bill?
See, Tom, and that's why I don't think anything is going to happen. You just said, look, every other job, everybody watching us, most people watching us, in that dynamic where the owner is the communicator and the employee is not, the owner is not frustrated. The owner says, hey, get the F out of here then. But that hasn't happened. So if he's frustrated and yet Bill continues to do things that frustrate him, well, what does that say about Robert Kraft? I mean, are they going to do anything about it?
I get what you're saying, but 2019, they rolled the dice. They said goodbye to Tom Brady. The team was bad. 2021, it was somewhat better, a lot better, pointing in the right direction. So Robert gets to sit back down in his chair and relax. 2022 is an absolute abject disaster. He gets the guy he wants as an offensive coordinator, it should be better. Now it's bad. Now it's reaching a tipping point. To me, it's reaching a tipping point because promises have been broken.
All right, Tommy, really quick. Do you think someone else would hire Bill Belichick? I'll give you my thought, too, because I feel pretty strongly about this. Not under the current terms. In other words, if he wants the same setup somewhere else he has here, $25 million a year, I hire everyone in the building. I control everything in the building. I get, not just my kids, but my coordinators, my personnel guy, $25 million. I control the purse strings. I think an owner would have to be insane to give him that.
Unfortunately, there are always going to be insane owners, and maybe fortunately, because Bill could maybe want to keep coaching, go someplace else, but I wouldn't hire him if I was someplace else. The reason simply being, if you look at his draft record, it's not that great. If you look at his free agent record, it's disastrous. If you look at his personnel record of guys who are sitting in front of him, whether it be Brady or Jacoby Myers or Shaq Mason, you name it, how he staffs his team, how ready he has it to play 2023 NFL football, it's not there. So I would not be lining up to hire Bill Belichick.
Okay, I know you guys. I know we're up against the break, so I'll tell you guys later how crazy you both are. Crazy.
You think there's another team that would give $25 million a year and complete control?
No. So in your scenario, no, $25 million.
Okay.
But Tom, to say that no team would do it, okay.
No. Look, if he says pay me $10 million, the going rate,
$10 million,
and you can keep your GM, yes, he would definitely get a crack.
Okay,
but I said there's always an owner out there who's dumb enough to do it.
But it wouldn't be dumb.
No, I don't think it would be dumb.
It wouldn't be dumb, no. That's what I'm saying. That's where I disagree with you.
What's he doing well right now in the last 4 years?
It's not about what he's doing well.
This setup is dumb. Giving this guy at this age this amount of control is dumb. But just being a head coach and everything else in place, It could still work.
I just want to name, just very quickly, some of the recent coaching hires. One of them tonight, Matt Eberflus was hired, Shane Steichen, Jonathan Gannon, Frank Reich. So you go to your team and say, hey, we're not going to hire Bill Belichick, but we'll hire Jonathan Gannon, who was just recently talking to his team about, hey, did you take the bus to work today? Are you excited? Get out of here. It's the greatest coach of all time. Yes, you'd hire him. No, you wouldn't pay him $25 million a year. You wouldn't give him the run in the place. But if he's on the open market, he's going to get a job.
Let me give you one example. Let's say the Bills keep coming up short, and they just can't get over the hump. Josh Allen, a good team, keep the GM, and you bring in Bill for that last final push. That would make sense, would
I
it
didn't
not?
get that far down the line, but that's a much better fit than a rebuild.
Right, exactly. I'm not giving him the whole building. I'm not giving him the whole department. I'm not giving him $25 million. I think he would get one of those if he could stomach that kind of job. And to get to Shula, he might have to.